Welcome to StarTalks powered by Advotalks. Today we have with us our most esteemed guest, Mr. Nitin Potdar, who is highly respected and influential figure in corporate law with over 2 decades of invaluable experience. Mr. Nitin is well versed in various corporate growth strategies such as mergers and acquisitions and cross-border transactions. He is known for his conflict resolution skills, always aiming for solutions that benefit all the parties involved. His expertise in takeover-specific laws and high-profile corporate negotiations has strongly established his reputation in the legal field. Nitin's unwavering work ethics and dedication to excellence led to him being honored as the most influential and significant lawyer in 2019 by the Legal 500. Beyond his legal practice, Nitin is passionately committed to revitalizing India's growth story through India Power Talk, a platform that brings global leaders together to discuss India's potential. Also, as the author of the GPS Paradigm, Nitin provides valuable guidance for successful business ventures. Today, he has joined us at StarTalks to express his insights and experiences, providing valuable perspectives on various aspects of understanding the corporate law and career as corporate lawyer. I should admit that I'm quite excited to host him. With that, I warmly welcome Mr. Nitin Potdar to a talk show, StarTalks powered by Advotalks. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nitin.
Thank you so much, Pradeep. I am pretty overwhelmed with your introduction and really thanks to the Advotalks forum. What you have created. I have gone through some of your previous recordings, and you are really adding tremendous value, I would say, to the legal fraternity and also to the business community. All yours. Siraj, please go ahead.
Sure, sir. Thanks for joining. And let us start with a fundamental understanding on the corporate law and its significance in the business world. And how exactly does it affect businesses in everyday life, Mr. Nitin?
So very broadly, corporate law is a branch of law that deals with hardcore business, like business formations, company formations, structuring of joint ventures, foreign collaborations, negotiating technical collaborations, advising business restructurings like mergers, acquisitions, demergers, guiding on succession planning to the promoters or to the founders, buyouts, private equity investment, financing to these ventures. So host of matters that deals with business. Now, India is truly an entrepreneurial state, to my mind, where we, on one hand, several large and mid-sized companies, and on the other, we have almost more than 7 crore Siraj, registered SME, MSMEs, all the startups. In addition to that, since 1991, we have a long list of MNCs operating in India. So when we talk of corporate law as such, it really deals with everything from pin to piano around the business. And as we go in the talk, I will talk more about what are the intricacies of corporate law, how does it really affect businesses, and how the legal fraternity should get ready to deal with this branch of law, which is very interesting and which has got really nicely developed in the last, I would say, 25 to 30 years.
So that's quite insightful it's going to be, and definitely we'll dive deeper into this corporate law, as you said. From the perspective of the professionals that are involved, so I wanted to know the key roles and responsibilities that the corporate lawyers should be holding, especially concerning the matters like legal compliance and be it the governance within the organizations.
So, Siraj, see, corporate lawyers, I would very broadly again divide the role of a corporate lawyer into two parts. One is corporate lawyers are supposed to provide, say, one is strictly legal advice, which is regulatory compliances and licenses, approvals, and those kind of stuff. And second is the most important part, which is called as a business advice. Now, we don't talk too much about the second part, and I would like to really dwell more into that because people believe generally that corporate lawyer are supposed to only deal with the licenses, approvals, or the regulatory regime. To my mind, that's only 25%. But 75% of the role of a corporate lawyer is to really find, if I may just define in one sentence, is to bring practical business solutions to the organization or to the companies. We are like trusted advisors to the business as such. As to in fact, there are this branch really has got tremendously developed overseas, because there you have corporate lawyers. I have seen a lot of lawyers even becoming chairman of organizations. They lead the organization. So you can imagine that it is not just the MBAs or the engineers or the IT guys or any technical chemical engineer or pharma. Not only those MBAs or professionals lead the organizations, but you will see in US there are a lot of lawyers who lead organizations. So the point I'm trying to make is, as corporate lawyers, we are supposed to be advising on the business decisions, participating in the negotiations, discussions, charting out a plan for the businesses for growth strategy. That is what the role of a corporate lawyer is, to my mind.
True, sir. As you mentioned, finding the practical business solutions as the trusted advisors, and also taking part in the negotiations and adding that value to the organization. And as you said, like the corporate lawyers are just not kind of confined to their own roles, but as you mentioned, they are kind of scaling up towards the CX groups and the leadership groups. That's quite inspiring to kind of have a more discussion on this. I wanted to understand from you, from your perspective, Nitin sir, how can the SMEs, the small and middle enterprises or micro enterprises as you call, and these startups can benefit from seeking legal counsel on corporate law matters and compliance, and how is this important for their success and the growth?
Let me elaborate about the role a little bit more on a corporate lawyer's perspective. See, typically every industry, every organization which is set up, whether it is small, mid, startup or otherwise, in large companies, gradually the systems are in place. But if you talk of mid companies or a SME, MSME, which is just started, or which is a 50, 60 crore or 100 crore company, every company needs, will have founders, will have co-founders or founders, or they will have a family with second generation, third generation founders. Now they need to have a very robust and a very articulated shareholders agreement among them. That is a co-founders agreement. You will see businesses will need vendor agreements, suppliers agreement, distributors agreement, key employments agreement, financing agreement, loan agreements. They will need real estate agreements. They'll need customer complaints. They will need distribution export agreements. They will need to have a cell to deal with the customers. So if you look at the complex web of a business, it needs multiple agreements, multiple commercial agreements at different levels. Now, these are, if your question could be, what if they don't have these agreements? No, yes, you are right. There are majority of the companies don't have these agreements, and that's where you will see they come in difficult situation. Typically, if you ask me, post COVID, this was felt very seriously, because post COVID, literally every company must have defaulted onto their agreements. Some of these agreements. Now, whenever the things are going fine, you don't need a document, because there is a lot of trust among the parties. So you don't need agreement. But what happens is, whenever there are difficult situations, that's the time where you try to figure out, oh, where is this provision? Or where do I find this? Typically when there are two or three more founders, you will not know who is doing what, who is doing what are the remuneration packages, what is their contribution to the company, and how much they are taking out of the company. So these things get aggravated only when the organization starts growing. So I would very strongly recommend, and I have seen this, literally every organization I have seen this, that either there will be difference of opinion among the founders' roles and responsibilities, or there will be difference of opinion between the key management and the founders or the managers. There will be key difference of opinion. Of course, the private equity or private finance which goes into the company, they would definitely have their own set of agreements. So private equity in India is much more, I would say, structured. And whenever they join any company or whenever they invest in any company, they would definitely articulate their rights and roles and everything. So private equity or financing, I'm not, it is taken care of. But generally, as an organization, you need to have multiple sets of agreement. Now, this is again, when I'm saying you need multiple agreement, it doesn't mean that this is a very complicated thing. It's not at all complicated. It is just a mindset of people to have things very structurally written or structurally identified. I think that's very important for the growth. If you don't have these agreements, typically you will definitely land up in some difficulty at the growth stage. To answer your question, SME, MSME, if they are very well structured, the biggest advantage for small companies, mid companies is for they will be able to easily acquire finance from outside world because they would appear more structured. They can open their books, they can open their documentation to any investor. And the investor or the banking community or financiers will have a lot of confidence in the company when they see that the company is well structured, the company has all arrangements properly documented, identified, rights and responsibilities are identified. So the confidence of investors community on a company which is much more properly documented and structured is at a very different level altogether. So to my mind, I would very strongly recommend that even if you have simple agreements, small agreement, but make sure that you have a compliance officer, you have a legal officer, internal counsel, and you structure these various relationships. Now take a very again, Siraj, I'll take a very classic example. Say, for example, a company has two or three distributors in India, in different regions. And if they don't have distributorship agreement, every distributor will try to take advantage of the company, or every distributor will find fault with something or the other. Now, typically, if any investor or any new final technical collaborator joining you, when he sees that this company has a good market share, but their distribution is not structured. They themselves don't know which geography they are addressing. They have no standard terms and conditions with the distributors. Now, these are very negative points and which impacts the valuation. So I would strongly recommend that for startups, SME, MSME, or mid-sized companies, if you really want your valuation high, so apart from the quality of the products and services and everything and the management that you have, you also need to have a structured approach with your organization. And that's the role the lawyer community or a corporate law advice helps success of any company.
Right, sir. As you mentioned, like systems are not so much organized, or you can say they are not streamlined in the middle enterprises or medium enterprises, and also startups come up with a lot of space for learning. So there is definitely a lack of standardization of the process. I think these may be some of the reasons, and as you said, trust actually plays a lot of role in moving ahead in the business. But when there is a difference in opinion, which you have rightly mentioned, and that is where probably the dispute arises, and subsequently there may be a lot of aspects to look into, which corporate law can come in place and then actually fill the gap. You've brought in few aspects of agreements. I'll come to that point. I want to know more about that, and also to give an understanding. The role of compliance officers is something that we wanted to understand better. So now, Nitin sir, please help me understand what are the founder agreements and what are the commercial agreements. Like what kind of role do they play, and how they are crucial for especially the startups and small business to run smoothly.
So again, Siraj, as I said, this concept of a founder agreement, to my mind, which is extremely important and critical. Even if you have family business, I would think that the family, if they have two children or three children or two brothers or sister, brother, or what father, son, whatever they are, in India, unfortunately, we don't give too much importance to the founder agreement because we treat that, oh, our family, this so and so ex family is in control. To my mind, that's no answer because I have seen many, in fact, almost alternate families. I have seen that as the business grows, there is always a difference of opinion about the role and responsibility of the family members. So I would think very strongly that irrespective whether you have any difference of opinion, and see again, it is not only you go to a lawyer to structure the agreement when there is a difference of opinion. In fact, I would think when the going is good at that stage itself, it is better to hammer a good relationship agreement, which very clear. It's not a complicated document at all. It only needs to identify the role and responsibility and the remunerations. Now, typically, again, I'll tell you, whether it is in family or outside or two friends or five friends coming together, when they begin any business, they begin the business with a passion that we need to start this business. Okay, very good. Now the challenge arises only when the business grows, and when say us a particular partner or a particular founder, he works very hard because say for example he's a technical person. So technical person initially needs to work very hard. So obviously he will think that look, I am working very hard. Then the next role comes of a person who is managing the marketing or managing the relationship with the investors and outside world. His role comes little later, and when he takes it over, by the time the manufacturing or the technical stuff is well settled. Okay, so when the second person takes it over, and when he really takes the company to a next height, a next level, he thinks that look, I who have really slogged and brought the company to the limelight, or I am the person who has brought the company to second level, and I need to be compensated separately. Now, so as the company grows, the roles and responsibility of the partners or the founders do change. Okay. So it is therefore very important to articulate, identify the roles and responsibilities, identify who will take what would be their remuneration, what would be their ownership rights. Now, this can't be static. As I said, as the company grows or as the company changes, the roles may also change. So if you have a broad base document, it is always easier to amend it, or it's always easy to modify the same. Also, it is important for the founders to identify exit route. That's to my mind very important. Some family members are there in the company for generations. Now, if they are taking an investor, obviously they will expect the investor to exit. Or if there are two brothers working together, they will want one brother to exit because he is non-technical and he's not really invested in the company. So to my mind, these are very core questions: role and responsibility. Who will add more responsibilities? What will be the remuneration of the partners? And what would be their ownership interest in the company? And how would they exit? These are, Siraj, so critical questions that I invariably see that look, all promoters struggle so much to get the company to a particular level. And when the company is ready to fly to the really growth stage, that's the time where promoters or the partners or the friends or family members, they struggle for relationship among themselves. And mind you, the biggest beneficiary out of this are the key employees, because they would always try to play one against the other. So in order to really keep the company insulated from all these anxieties, I would think it is very critical, very important for founders or promoters to see again. Let me repeat myself. Structuring a founder agreement is not a complex process. Even if you don't want to go to corporate lawyers or involve heavy professionals, no difficulty. Between the two of you, at least identify the role and responsibilities. Write down on piece of paper so that you know the reference points. That, to my mind, is very critical and very important. See, it's
Right.
why I'm insisting that SME, MSMEs, and mid companies do this, because they are the ones who are always at the growth path. They are the ones who look for expansion of the company's immediate expansion. Now, the expansions cannot happen if they themselves their relationships are not structured. In larger companies, it's all settled 30, 40 years company, so nothing really goes wrong on day-to-day basis. But small companies can collapse. SME, MSME can just collapse if the two partners don't talk to each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I think like it's an extension to something like which is if you say you take an example of a private limited firm, something like a memorandum of association is something that it's mandatory on the compliance aspect. So the founders agreement is something additional what we can kind of lay out the roles and responsibilities as you have rightly mentioned, and so that the founders have a confidence on whatever they are performing and then what can be expected in the upcoming period. And also you have rightly mentioned about the exit route. So most probably lot many disputes are actually arising in today's corporate world. Whenever, as you mentioned, the corporate is actually getting to the next level, that's where the dispute is arising, and between the investors as well as the founders there are definitely difference of opinions, and then exit is becoming more and more kind of tougher. Nevertheless, I guess there are guidelines of how to kind of what to consider while actually drafting a founders agreement. We will know about that, know more from you, Nitin sir. We also kind of heard something about a distributors agreement or something like you have mentioned in your previous example. So are these categories of the commercial agreements, are you referring these as part of the commercial agreements? And if so, like how many such types of commercial agreements can be there in a real-time world for the businesses, and how should the businesses actually try to focus on such kind of commercial agreements to cut down the disputes?
So there are, to my mind, whenever you structure any business, there are minimum 15 to 20 commercial agreements which are required to be structured. Now, when I'm saying commercial agreements, the number of commercial agreements depend upon the type of a business. Okay. Very on a broader or a generic level, you have a founders agreement or a collaboration agreement, joint venture agreement, as you call, a shareholders agreement. Founders agreement, shareholders agreement, joint venture, these are all same. The only terms slightly differ depending upon the nature of the agreement. Then you have immediately the next level that you have are the key employment agreements with the managers, with the CFO, CEOs, or the all employment agreement. That's very critical. The next level of agreements are vendor agreements or suppliers agreement. Now you may say that, look, I have been buying goods, but I don't have an agreement. We have an understanding. Now I would this is invariably I hear from Indian companies. They say that we have an understanding with our suppliers. We have an understanding with our vendors. Now I would very strongly recommend that please don't go by the verbal understanding or by your business practice, unless it is that way. But it is always better to execute at least one page or two-page commercial terms. For example, how is within what is the credit limit? Within what time are you supposed to make the payments? What is the mode of payment? What is the mode of delivery? What if there's a dispute on quality of the goods? What is the jurisdiction? So these are the things which you can definitely, even in an email or even in a commercial terms, you can put down. Then there are technology agreements, innovation agreements. You many times, in fact, today every industry is based on some technology. So if you are licensing technology, what are the license terms? What on what basis are you entering that agreement? Then there are a host of intellectual property agreements like trademarks, copyrights. Whatever intellectual property you need to protect or you own, you need to have proper agreements with that. And then the next is distribution agreement, export agreements, or the marketing agreements. Now again, as I said, you don't need to enter 15, 16 very structured agreement, but I would think if these are the areas of business, you need to have first write down the commercial terms and make the other side agreement. This is what the commercial world of all business agreements are. And this is very essential because it may sound very burdensome to begin with, but it is not very burdensome. As I again mentioned, the challenge comes only when you grow. The challenge comes when there is a default or when there is a dispute between the two partners.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Like as you mentioned, like based on the type of the businesses, there can be any number of commercial agreements, but it is essential for the organizations and the managements to identify the key areas and which areas the disputes may arise, and then at least they can, as a preparation step, start about drafting these kind of commercial agreements. Thanks a lot for giving a lot many examples of these types of commercial agreements, like you have mentioned about suppliers agreement, and there are distribution agreements, marketing agreements, the vendors agreements is also there. There are also about definitely multiple areas that based on the businesses type and their kind of modus operandi, these contracts can actually come forward. Nitin, so moving forward, I wanted to understand from you, over your vast 2 decades of experience in the corporate law, what are some of the major and most common challenges that you have encountered, and how have you addressed them so that it can be useful for the upcoming generation of the practitioners?
So the first challenge to my mind when you practice as a corporate law is the understanding of the industry. Today, post-liberalization since 1991, we have a lot of new industries which has come up in India, like telecom industry, banking industry, insurance, retail. Defense is a very up new segment now. In renewable energy, green energy. Now, these are the new domains which have come in. Now, and each domain comes up with their own complexities. Now, to my mind, to be a real good corporate lawyer, you need to understand, you need to have an understanding of the industry domain. Now, unfortunately, even within the law schools, we have not developed, we have got good law schools, but we have not got, we really need to work upon and in collaboration or in tandem with the industry to develop a telecom come legal, engineering come with law, medical with law, manufacturing with law, service sectors with law. We need to bring, or we need to collaborate. We have a collaboration between these industries and the legal community, so that the lawyers who tomorrow get ready to advise on corporate law, they understand the industry. The challenge today is that Indian corporate lawyers, not too many, of course, there are I would not say none of them, but not many lawyers are really they really understand the industry domain. Now, unless you understand the industry domain, you will not be able to really add much value to the growth of the company or industry. You will be then restricted yourself to only compliances or regulatory or a little bit of compliances and complaints. If you really want to be the corporate lawyer who really sits on the management or really participates with the management decisions or helps the management to grow, you need to understand, or you need to at least know the basics of industry domains. To my mind, that's very critical. And unless the industry and the law schools or the legal fraternity work closely with each other, we will not be able to develop that expertise. That's the major challenge which I see. In when the new lawyers or the young lawyers who come forward in practice of corporate law, they are clueless about industries.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Like you have rightly brought in the most common challenge. I think like the know-how of the particular industry before we kind of give a consultation. I think that plays a major role. And as you have also mentioned, there is a need of the law schools coming up with collaborations with the industries, like be it like you have named many industries, probably like telecommunication with law, and then probably media and entertainment with law, and these kind of multiple areas are coming up. And I guess it's right time to kind of have a focused study, and then these specializations can actually boost a lot of consulting value that can be actually derived by the end business. Rightly pointed out, Nitin sir, and we wanted to go ahead and then understand from you the role of the corporate lawyers has been evolving over the years, and how do you see that this evolution, and what are the emerging trends that you believe that will shape the future of the corporate law practice?
The good news is, in the last couple of years, I am seeing students who score more than 90 plus in their 12th examination, who could easily get in medical or engineering. Even they are preferring law as their profession. So legal profession is becoming a profession by choice, and that's a very good sign, because when a student with 90 plus percentage who can easily do his career in engineering or medical, if he prefers to come to law, obviously he'll be more committed. Obviously, he's working very hard to show his own skill and experience in the legal world. Now, these are good things. These are evolved. Along with that, we have also a lot of really good law schools coming up. So good schools have coming up. Good law students are participating. The so these are the trends. These are good trends. In fact, I am also seeing a lot of students going abroad for doing LLM. There are a lot of parents who want to send their students right from 12th standard only to take a foreign degree, undergraduate degree in law. So these are some of the extremely good trends I see, and really bright future for corporate law, and also obviously in turn it is going to help the business to grow in India. Now, that, as I mentioned, the challenge is very serious. The challenge is that that whilst the corporate law stream or the practice is growing, I am not seeing too much of interaction between industry and lawyers. Now, or the challenge really is about internships. Why are we not, there are very few law firms who really offer very structured internship. Now, that's a very serious gap to my mind. We don't have enough law firms offering very good or structured internship programs for law students. More than that, we don't have a mindset of industry absorbing lawyers as interns. Very few handful of banks, or say for example SEBI or government organizations or even judiciary now takes law students as interns, but we don't have the trend of industry absorbing the law students. Now imagine we have 7 crore, I said 7 crore SME, MSME registered or with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs or Ministry of SME or MSME. Now, forget 7 crore. Even if you take 10% of that, which is 70, which is at least the 70 lakhs. If 70, 50, 60 lakhs lakh companies, if they are good size, even if they are 10 crore plus size, which if they offer internship to students, I think that will be a great help to the industry and also to develop the corporate law community.
Right, sir. I think, like as you mentioned, today it's good part that students are actually coming out by choice to, choose the law as the subject that they want to pursue for their career, as well as you rightly mentioned, the multiple law firms actually they should be having a structure in place, especially when it comes to kind of absorbing the lawyers as interns, or rather you call it for internships itself, that there is a kind of lack of structure in place. We definitely kind of try to understand these are some of the points that the industry will actually kind of resume or work kind of to better this part. So we'll go with the last question, Nitin sir. So lastly we will wanted to understand from you, what was the most rewarding aspect of your career as a corporate lawyer, and what is that advice that you wanted to give the aspiring lawyers looking to build a career in the corporate law?
So, to my mind, the most rewarding moment for me personally speaking was, when I authored the book, The GPS Paradigm, during pandemic, and that book talks of how the Indian industry should really go forward with, when we have an onslaught of technological development. How should any organization go for mergers, acquisition, or joint venture? Because that's the only growth path. So I could author a book on why and how should any M&A take place within the technological realm. And so that was to my mind a very rewarding experience to my mind. But more importantly, in the last 25 years of my career, I have been part of large, complex mergers, acquisitions, or helping MNCs to come to India and settle the business. So that's very satisfying because, in other words, we are contributing to the growth of the nation. So I would think if corporate law branch is well structured, is well developed, it is only going to augur well for the growth of the nation. And that is what is required. So lawyers should not be seen only as dispute partners or are resolving disputes or difficult situations, but we are really contributing to the growth of the nation. And I think I see a very great future for corporate law in India in the coming decade.
That brings us to the end of this quite insightful conversation, Nitin sir. Thanks for being kind of so kind and accepting our invitation to take part into this particular talk show, and helping us and our audience understand various intricacies of the corporate law, and as well as how one can actually step up towards the career in corporate law. Right. With that,
Thank you.
we appreciate you for taking time for the talk show and sharing invaluable advice. Once again, thanks a lot from Advotalks.
And thank you, Siraj. All pleasure mine. Thank you.
So, viewers, that's about today's episode with Mr. Nitin Potdar, which brings a lot of insightful understanding on the corporate law, as well as how one can pursue career in the corporate law. For more information on the legal concepts, please visit our website www.advotalks.com, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Advotalks.